Pokemon's character designs are famous for being cool, cute, and everything in between. The designs I'd say are most iconic are the Pokemon protagonists themselves. After all, we do play as them. But with these trainers needing to be a canvas for the player, as well as an increase in customization options in the newer games, some could argue player character designs are basic or average compared to the other cast members. So today, let's talk about the universe where trainers aren't canvases. Instead, they're their own characters with bundles of personality. Of course, I'm talking about Pokemon Adventures. It is pretty much all I do on this channel after all. Although at first glance, there's little to no change between the games and the manga characters, I think you'll be surprised how much things like poses and items make a difference. So let's take a look at the design changes between the games and manga. If we're talking about main characters, of course we have to start with Red. Not only was he the first main character of the games, he's also the first main character of the manga, and the first to start the trend of design overhauls. Looking at the two trainers, it's clear to see the main difference comes from Red's hair and cap chain. In an effort to make the 11-year-old look more cool as the main character, Mato, the artist, gave Red typical anime spiky hair, which sticks out of the front of his head, whilst the rest is covered nicely by his backwards cap, which we all know is meant to show off being cool and rebellious. Unlike his goody two-shoes counterpart, this Red will do whatever he wants. Of course I'm joking, but this is what they were trying to go for. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten the fact that Red from the games also has an alt art where we see him wearing a backwards cap, so they probably got the idea from this. The YouTuber who was an inspiration for this idea, GatorEX, brought up a crucial part about character design, and that's of course poses. When comparing the artwork of the two Reds, you can see Red from the manga is much more outgoing, with his body being fully outstretched, holding up his Pokeball as if he's ready for a battle at a moment's notice, whilst Red from the games is much more relaxed. When Red would reappear in the Gold Silver Crystal arc, he was older and much more mature, spinning his backwards cap forward as well as getting a pair of gloves. Technically for the gloves, he got them at the end of his own arc. These gloves may look like normal gloves, but they actually don't conduct electricity, so that his Pikachu can charge up electricity whilst being inside the Pokeball. He also gets a bandana that he wears around his left leg. I don't know why they gave this to him exactly, and I couldn't find any symbolism of what it means, so let's just say it's fashion. The manga will often cover Red's eyes with his hair or hat, trying to make him more akin to his game design. Once Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green were announced, Red from the games got his first redesign. The manga would follow suit and age up the character from his last appearance of 14 to now 16. Red's new jacket, bag, and cap all come from the games, with his only difference being his iconic spiky hair. If you were to draw all the Reds together, the way to notice manga Red would be typically his hair. As for his rival Blue, he didn't get much change from his game counterpart, matching both his outfits and hairstyles in most appearances. However, after his loss against Red in the Pokemon League, Blue leaves on a training journey, with our next time seeing him being in the Yellow arc, where he's now wearing a badass cloak and carrying a drawstring bag. A perfect yet simple design change to show off a character on a journey. This design became so beloved by fans that even after countless other designs, he would wear the cloak once more in his latest appearance of Pokemon XY. When comparing poses and facial expressions, Blue from the games shows off very clearly he's meant to be smug and a jerk. And the manga honestly does the same thing, but with him having more angled eyes, it makes him seem more cool whilst being smug, making it straight up confidence. In the later arcs of the manga, Blue, just like Red, matures, and instead of looking cocky, he turns it down to a more focused look and pose, showing that he's been humbled in the past and now focuses on himself rather than acting stuck up. For our first female protagonist Green, her design wasn't based off a game character. Rather, her design was based off a Pokemon artwork as well as a character in a magazine. Because of this, her design and personality were free ground, and the character of the female protagonist became more known from the manga rather than its original sources. As time went on, Green would get small changes in her design, like a jacket or different shoes, but the core of her design went largely unchanged. But when the Fire Red and Leaf Green arc came around, she wore the exact same outfit as Leaf. And although Green would end up keeping this design till present day, you can still tell the difference between the two characters from the hair color and poses, with Green from the manga posing more elegantly like an older character would. Despite not having a character design to take from the games, Yellow still takes her design inspiration from a game character, being the Bugcatcher trainer class, evident by her iconic straw hat. This makes sense as after all, Yellow is from Viridian City, which is famous for its forest. The Bugcatcher trainer class was also filled with boys, so for Yellow, a girl disguising herself as a boy would further enhance her disguise. Instead of holding a bug catching net though, Yellow wields a fishing rod, possibly from her uncle who's also a fisherman. It also gives her more uniqueness from the other bug catchers, as although she has the straw hat, she's not part of the trainer class. Johto's Gold is another trainer who doesn't change much design wise, other than one glaring thing, which is of course his super cool goggles. I just want to quickly say, goggles are one of my favorite character design items, and a lot of my favorite characters wear them, Gold included. Initially, it may seem like he wears them for no reason, just like the Digimon main characters, but he actually does use them, mainly when he's skateboarding around or aiming his shot with his billiard cue. 2 more items that differentiate him from Ethan, and also 2 more items that should give away his character type, being the rebellious kid trainer taken to the extreme. With the remix of the Gen 2 games, Gold gets new clothes just like the other trainers, but he also gets a new pair of goggles which are much more detailed. As you can see, Gold is more similar to Red in the way that his key arts always show him in action, with a smirk on his face. The way he smiles shows confidence, as if he's already been around the block, whilst Ethan, although smiling, looks more like a beginner trainer, curious about the world he's going to explore. For our next trainer, Chris, she takes her design from the character of the same name. Even when comparing their 2 main arts, the 2 Chris seem pretty much identical, but when the remix came out, she would take her design inspiration from Lyra, making a sort of fusion between the 2 characters. Oh, and for a while she wore a lab coat and skirt when she was working for Professor Oak. In the Hoenn region, Ruby and Sapphire would also both see simple changes from their base characters, Brendan and May. For Ruby, he would get a pair of sunglasses, which he would occasionally wear. As for Sapphire, she would be given a fang, to work better with her character of being a girl who loves the outdoors. I guess she also wore leaf clothing for a bit, but we'll just move past that. You can even tell this from how they look art-wise. Ruby aiming for elegance in his posing, whilst Brendan looks like your more typical Pokemon trainer. Same with May, she looks like your typical Pokemon trainer, whereas with Sapphire, she's either swinging on vines or climbing with all 4s. Spoiler alert for this next part, but as we know, Brendan's white hair is actually a hat. Nowadays this is obvious, but back then it confused quite a few people, with even Sapphire taking a jab at this. But in the manga they clearly state the difference, as Ruby's head actually hosts a scar on top of it after an attack from a Salamence. We don't get to see the character much without his scar, but we do see it once in a while. When the Emerald games came out, Brendan and May got new outfits, being green to represent Emerald, whilst also being more attuned to Hoenn's climate. In the manga however, these outfits were given to our heroes at the end of the Ruby and Sapphire arcs. You may be wondering why they did this. Well, that's actually because of the new introduction of Emerald, the new dex holder who would be wearing green. So to avoid color clashing, Ruby and Sapphire were instead given recolors of their Emerald outfits. This is a simple change that really went a long way. As surprise surprise, red looks good on a character called Ruby and blue looks good on a character called Sapphire. When the Oras arc rolled in, things returned to the norm, with the dex holders copying their game designs, even to the extent of copying their contest clothes. After the 3rd generation, the remaining dex holders don't see much change in their designs clothing wise. Instead, their change coming from how they're presented in their artworks, with the character of Dawn going from a cheerful young girl to a character of regalness in Platinum. One small detail to mention though is how Platinum has 2 rings, a diamond ring and a pearl ring, referencing her 2 best friends, and also showing off her richness. The characters who had remakes or 3rd versions also got updates accordingly. For example, the Sinnoh dex holders getting long sleeves, or in Pearl's case, rolling down his sleeves. This is how things would continue for a while, but notably Blake would take Nate's athletic clothes and change it from being regular clothing to protective armor that can withstand even Pokemon attacks, due to this being part of his job as an international police member. Other than that, all the other dex holders only got changes in their main arts and facial expressions. For example, Silver going from smug to serious, or Diamond going from regular trainer to glutton. But I don't want to sound like a broken record and list every single one of these off. It's kinda sad to see how the unique designs and items all came from the start of the series, and as time went on, they kinda just gave up on that and reverted to simple personality changes. Especially when the other Pokemon mangas continued to do this. We do seem to have signs of hope though, as Violet Lang, the newest protagonist, has a completely different design to Florian of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. As of the time I'm writing this, I don't think we've seen the Scarlet character, so I can't comment on her design. Let me know in the comment section down below which character design change was your favourite. Was it something more noticeable, such as Red's hair, or something subtle like Platinum's rings? Whilst you're also at it, you might as well subscribe, as I'm trying to reach 10k before the end of the year. With all that said and done, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.